Sorcerers! Josh here. Still a little rough from Gen Con, but we're going to try to do this again. And we're going to talk about the thing that has consumed the community. Dragonlord. And particularly its availability. So I just spoke with my local store today, and they finally were able to confirm their numbers from their distributor. They are receiving a single copy. One copy of Dragonlord. That is all they are going to receive. Now, my community is pretty small. We have about 8 players, roughly. So one copy of Dragonlord is not going to do it. Nothing that can really be done about it. Also, just looking around everywhere else, most other stores seem to be in this position. They are getting 2 copies, 4 copies. Stores that have spent the most on Sorcery with the various distributors that they are linked to seem to be actually getting that full case, but they have had a lot of spend with Sorcery product. And so that does appear to be how the distributors allocated this product. And so there is not enough to go around. Now, you all know my hope before any of this happened was for Dragonlord to come out and for it to be available at MSRP until at least December. That was my hope. And many individuals in the community already felt that the $59 price point was way too high for 13 cards and a foil. Now, I had said 75 was where I thought it was going to land. So for me, 59 was fine. But one of the things I was very worried about was how long will it sustain the 59? Will it go lower? And because Eric's Curiosa had said this is going to be collectible, it's going to be limited, because of the information we were getting early on about, availability is looking pretty tight, I was very worried that that $59 price point would not hold for very long. And of course, at the moment, it has been completely blown out of the water. Right now, a box of Dragonlord is running about $300 on TCG Player before taxes and all that good stuff. That's a hefty price to pay for 13 cards and a foil. The good news is it doesn't appear that the cards in Dragonlord are going to be something where you need every single card because every card is important to a particular deck type or something like that. Right now, the Shrine appears to be the card that everyone's looking at, and they're like, okay, the Shrine is probably going to see some play. And I've talked to many competitive players looking at that card, and yeah, they felt pretty good about it, but now some of them are starting to shy off. They're like, it already feels bad to draw a core or a Philosopher's Stone in turn 8 or turn 10. So am I really going to add a Shrine to my deck as well? I think that's a fair argument. It could be that some folks are like, well, instead of the core, because I'm playing 3 elements, I'm going to put in a Shrine. Maybe that's what will happen. So I don't think the Shrine is like, oh no, it's not playable either. No, I think it's more of it will work for certain decks. It's not something you're going to want in every deck. Certainly probably not any type of an aggro deck, something that's supposed to be very fast and hit very hard very quickly. But for decks that are a little bit more long-term, that want to use 3 or 4 elements, I think the Shrine definitely has a place in those types of decks. And that is the card that at the moment appears to be the most playable of the 13. Now, that's not to say that the others aren't completely unplayable. I can't ever say this. Adtonitum, I think that's it. that dragon to me, looking at the dragons, when I saw that one, I'm like, okay, 3 damage to a random unit other than itself whenever it stops moving. It's an air. You can move it around a lot. So I think that particular dragon could see some use in some of those decks, kind of at the, some of those Avatar of Air decks. That's going to be able to move that and get the 3 damage too. That's something that I could actually see. 7's still really high though. 7 mana for any card is very high. Most decks tend to cap out at about 6. Once you get past that, we don't see a lot of cards that are at that 7 and 8 mana level. One of the big exception being Craterize, right? So 7 mana for a minion, that does limit some of the dragons. That's a big investment. But I do think that Ad Tonitum, I hope I'm saying that right. I think that's right. It might have a chance to see some play. But again, if you don't play air and you don't want to play that type of deck, because you're going to have to dedicate a lot of your deck to air to hit that 3 air threshold, it's not like you need that card. The other card that I think people are going to want to get, this is just my opinion, is the Dragonlord Avatar. Of all the cards in the set, the Dragonlord Avatar has the brightest future, potential future, since he will be able to use whatever dragons come out for his ability from this point until the end of Sorcery. That card has a lot of potential growth, I think. If we get some crazy dragon 4 or 5 sets from now, and you have the ability to access its power for 3 mana, I definitely think the Dragonlord could actually see some serious growth, some serious use. So for those of you who are like, I am not paying $300 for a box of this stuff, when I look at the cards, right, everyone's told me, and I'm old. I always liked opening boxes, and that's how I got my product. This whole buy singles thing is something that I just never really wanted to do, because I've been out of TCGs for a long time. But obviously that's the way to do it. So you can get, the Dragonlord Avatar, the Shrine, and maybe 1 or 2 of the dragons, and you're going to spend, I think the Shrine is like $50 right now, non-foil. So that's pretty high. But like, if you just want the Dragonlord Avatar, go out and buy it. I think it's $20. Go out and spend $20 for it. You've got the Dragonlord Avatar. You'll have it for the future. You've got it. So that's kind of where I'm at with, I understand people who are very upset because they can't get a set, especially at a retail price that many of these same people probably feel was too high to begin with. But at least, the cards aren't something where it's like, oh, I need 6 of these cards because 6 of these cards go in every deck that I want to play. So there is that, I guess, consolation of, okay, it's not like I need these cards. I want these cards. I want these cards. I totally get it. I want them. But I don't need them for a deck. That's the thing. And if there is one that I need, as long as it's not the Shrine, most of them are fairly affordable if you just go out and buy a single copy of that card. I have a couple of friends that are actually now, when they open a box, they sell the entire set for $80 shipped. So now that's not to Europe or anything like that. It's a whole different story. But here in the US, they're selling, they open a set, they sell the non-foils for $80. Now you say, I don't want to even pay $59, and I should get a foil. I get it, but this is where we're at. And I don't think it's going to change. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. For those of you out in Europe and in Australia and Asia and everywhere else, I'm sorry. It does not look promising at all. Now, it's my understanding that the European distributor might still be trying to get stuff out, maybe, but they're not reliable. So But I mean, it does look like, yet again, if you're outside of the US, you're in more trouble than everywhere else. And that's not a good place to be. It's definitely not where I want Europe to be. In terms of player base, it seems to me that outside of the US, Europe has the next largest player base overall. So I really wanted to see product over there at a level at least like the US, and the US's position is not even good. So, man, it doesn't even look like we're going to get to that over in Europe, and that's very unfortunate. But it is what it is at this point. Now, many people pointed out Ed has confirmed that Eric's Curiosa has the right to reprint Dragonlord. They can reprint it, so there can be more. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think they're going to reprint it. They've got Gothic. They're going to be pivoting to Gothic. And assuming it's late October, early November, they're going to have to pivot real soon. So if they have to be focused on Gothic and making sure that product's available, that core product, a product that is going to basically be the flagship and take over for beta, they're going to need to make sure that they can print enough of that product that if there's some bizarre issue with the print run or something like that, or more demand than they ever expected, they've got to make sure that they are ready to get more Gothic out, because that is the flagship product. That is the product. Beta is going to be going away. I don't think they're going to print it again. Maybe they will. Who knows? But given that we have confirmation that Gothic is the largest set that Eric's Curiosa has ever made, that sounds to me like it is going to be the new flagship, and that is going to drive us into the future. So Eric's Curiosa needs to make sure that Gothic is readily available across the globe, which means I don't know how they could find the time to do a reprint of Dragonlord. Now, maybe they can. Maybe they can squeeze it in somewhere. And if they did, and that is a big if, I'm thinking summer at the earliest. Summer 2026. And that, I don't know, is that printing or is that delivery? Yeah, somewhere summer 2026. That would be the earliest I would think they would even potentially be able to do it. But maybe they can squeeze it in earlier. I don't know. They got a lot going on. Avatar of the Realm. They've got to find a location for that. Seems pretty clear that Avatar of the Realm is going to be their own event. It's going to take a lot of planning, a lot of time from the staff to get that event up and running. They've got all the organized to play events that are still coming where you will be able to get Dragonlord. At least that seems to be the plan. If you go to one of these Crossroads events, Dragonlord is going to be available at those events. That's what it seems to be what's going to happen. But maybe it's not, but that's the read I'm getting, is that if you go to Star City Games Con Baltimore, there's going to be Dragonlord there for you to buy. If you go to the event over in Europe, the Crossroads there, then you're going to be able to buy Dragonlord there at retail from Eric's Curiosa. That's what I think is going to happen. So there are opportunities. Granted, the cost of travel, housing at that event, all those things are going to add to the cost of the Dragonlord. So maybe it's just better if you just outright buy a copy for $300 US. It could be. I don't know. But if you're already going to that event, I think those are definitely your best shot. But outside of that, I really don't think a reprint's going to happen. Eric's Curiosa needs to pivot to Gothic. They need to pivot to the flagship product. and they need to use the momentum that Dragonlord gave us. And it gave us a lot of momentum. A lot. I 100% can confirm that. I was at Gen Con. There is momentum coming out of Gen Con. We're going to ride this rocket as far as we can, hopefully to Gothic, and we're just going to keep on going. That's what I want to do. But in doing that, I just don't think the timing for a Dragonlord reprint is available. At least not for a while. And Eric's Curiosa did indicate this is going to be very collectible. In order to be collectible, the print run needs to be low. Not everyone can get their hands on it. Now, is it too low at this point? Any product going from $59 to $300 yet? In my opinion, that's too low. This is just like the mess with the Final Fantasy set that was released for Magic. I just wanted to get a single copy of that collector box. And when I saw they were $700, I was like, no way. I ain't paying that. I paid for Lord of the Rings. I ain't doing it again. And then, I don't know what they are now, $1,200, $1,300. No. I mean, I liked Final Fantasy VI. Played it to the ends of the earth on Super Nintendo. Loved it. Great game. But it isn't worth that to me. And, you know, when I look at Dragonlord, I see, well, that's what this product is. It's a product that is extremely collectible. And it appears that the demand for it is much higher than the available quantity. Now, more is going to come out, right? Assuming that you can purchase Dragonlord for retail at these Crossroad events, more is going to come to market. So this initial phase here where people are paying $300 for Dragonlord, I think as the months progress, we may see a small decrease. But are you ever going to get it for $59 outside of a Crossroads? I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know if the floor is going to be. It really just depends. You know, how many copies come out at each one of these Crossroads events. Obviously, Europe and Australia and Asia are in the worst situations. Asia especially, they don't have a Crossroads event at all. Not in Japan or Singapore. It's just in Australia. So, you know, assuming that Dragonlord is available at each of these Crossroads, that's your opportunity to get it. So hopefully you live close. And if you don't, you're going to pay an ugly price. I don't like it. I was hoping there would be enough supply that everyone could get a copy at $59 through December. That was what I was hoping for. I felt like that time frame of basically 5 months, you know, at retail for a collectible product, that feels about right to me. And you know, keeping it collectible and yet allowing people to have access. And a lot of people told me that I was wrong about that that's too long and I'm crazy. So, and that's fine. I'm happy to be wrong and be crazy. Although I guess I'm not happy to be wrong in this case. So anyhow, that's what I wanted. It didn't happen. And this is where we're at. In this position, it's not going to change. If you wait it out, yeah, maybe you do get it for $250 or $200. I don't know that it goes below $200 unless the quantities that are available at Star City Games Con are just astounding. And, you know, Gen Con just announced that they had a new attendance record. I think it was 72,000 people, which felt low to me. I thought that it was at 75, but they said 72,000 unique individuals. So if they're selling what they sold at Gen Con to 72,000 people, Star City Games Con are not that size. So they're not going to bring that amount of product. So there's going to be a lot less, presumably, that is going to come into the market. Now, there could be more Crossroads in 2026. Maybe that's the plan. Eric's Curiosa has held on to a lot of the product, and they're going to use it as kind of this really cool thing. If you come to one of our Crossroads events, you're going to get the opportunity to get Dragonlord at $59. Now, the fairness of that, we can argue that. Yeah, it doesn't seem fair to people who aren't able to travel, aren't able to afford, to go to those types of events. Yes, we can argue that all day. That is the truth. But if that's the plan, and that's the only way the product's going to get out, if there are more Crossroads in 2026 and they're available there, then it could be that over time, the price does continue to decrease. Though it getting below $150, again, unless they just drop out a whole bunch, I don't know that it's really going to happen. And even to get to that price, and here's the thing, what's out is out. And we're not going to get any more Dragonlord, in theory, until Star City Games Con Houston. I don't, and I'm just talking about the US here. Obviously, whatever Europe does with their Crossroads and whatever Australia does with their Crossroads, it's not like that product's going to come to America. That product's going to be eaten up and gobbled up by their gaming communities there. So the next chance for a product to really come out in the US, Star City Games Con Houston in the middle of October. So supply, unless something else is happening, all of a sudden the distributors say, hey, there's a whole bunch available and we'll sell it to you. And I don't think that's going to happen. Supply is only going to tighten until that next little burst. And who knows how much that burst from Houston and from Baltimore and from Vegas, who knows how much that's actually going to reduce the price pressure. Because let's just say they sold 1,500 at Gen Con. And maybe it was 1,000, but let's just say it's 1,500 for 72,000 people. Why are you bringing to Star City Games Con? You bring in 500? That's a big question. So, and how much price pressure are you going to be able to relieve on the secondary market with that quantity? Because I can't imagine they're going to bring the same quantity for those events that they brought to Gen Con. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So there you have it. Yeah, I'm not happy where the price is. I don't like where it's at. I think I personally could have tolerated it ending up at 100, where it's like, okay, it's tough to get, but it's obtainable. I think I could have lived with that. A lot of people wouldn't be able to. And I understand that. It's a high amount of price for 14 cards. But for me, $100, I would have been like, okay, that it's tight. It's tight, but $100, people can find that. Many people can find that. Not necessarily, not all, but many people can find $100 for this set if they really want to get the set. But right now we're in the place where if you want some part of this for play, your best bet is to go snag the single. And that's where we're at. And I'm not happy about it, but it isn't going to change. That's where we're at. And for those of you who think, oh, Eric's Curiosa is going to make some announcement, they understand that, they didn't estimate enough, and so there's going to be a reprint. No. I don't see that coming from the team. They've got Gothic to handle. They have got so much on their plate, getting ready for these next Crossroads, getting Gothic in the pipeline. I do not see it happening. So that's it. $300 for Dragonlord. I know a lot of people are very upset. I understand it. But it's where we're at. For good or ill. Just in my mind, at least, all 13 of these cards aren't cards you're going to be like, I have to have every one of these, because you should play them in every deck. at least there's that. Not much of a consolation, but it's something. And yeah. I don't know. There's no good way to end this. The situation is just, it is what it is. And it's not going to change. Certainly, even if they're able to do a reprint or want to do a reprint, they got to deal with Gothic. That is going to consume them. And I'm sure after they release Gothic, they're going to want to take a little bit of a break and say, okay, let's step back here a little. We had a good release. They're not going to be thinking, oh, we got to go reprint Dragonlord. That isn't going to happen. So it's going to be tight. And prices could escalate. They really could. They could go up. But right now is the feeding frenzy. So we should see a little bit of a dip still until things start to tighten up because there's no more supply coming in. So it'll be interesting to see where it lands, where these singles land, especially the foil. My Lord. The foils are just, and they're selling. They're selling $250 for those dragons all day long. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. That's it though. Until next time, as always, keep on contesting the realm.